Back in April, May of this year, we talked a lot. We dedicated, I think, almost 2 full weeks of shows to what we called the Campus Intifada, the student protests that started in Columbia University. Your facial expressions get very difficult to anchor a show, but they do add to it. So student protests that started in Columbia University, spread to a bunch of different universities, were handled differently in a sort of a microcosm of how to handle terrorists and criminals and so on. And in Emory University, they were handled in a particularly interesting way, as in the law was enforced, which made it difficult for the protesters. Um, Now school is back, summer's over, students are all well rested and ready to fight for justice and against genocide once again. With that, of course, there is there's the controversy that goes along with it. So in Emory University, some stuff has been going on. We're going to read an article about it that's from The Guardian that tells you kind of some of the stuff, but also tells you how to think about it, which is what The Guardian typically does. But before we get into it, I want to just read some headlines from The Guardian that come up when you do a Google search about what The Guardian says about Emory University and Palestine-related protests. So some of these headlines are from April and May. U.S. faculty speak up and stand alongside student Gaza protest. Hang on, yeah, protesters. Uh, Sorry, Google doesn't give you always the full article, the full headline. Uh, Atlanta Atlanta protesters link Cop City to Gaza. That's something we will come back to later. And there's more. We might get to more of it, but there's something in one of those articles that really connects to the article we're going to be discussing today. So welcome to the reality show. I'm joined by Kirk, Marco, and Richard. Should we go straight into the article and I'll read a little bit of it, and unless anybody has
I do
anything.
I do
Yes.
have a question which I think might be interesting to the audience. We're going to be playing some clips from what happened back in April, correct?
Yes.
At Emory. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's something you talked about, like you want to talk about overloading the crow. This is, I made a video, like a long video on all these protests, and I even covered this. And when you said we're talking about this, I'm like, and I'm reading into it. I'm like, wait a minute, what was Emory again? Even I forgot the specifics, and I'm pretty sure I put up a video on my YouTube channel where I played clips and I was talking about what was going on in Emory. But yeah, this is going on like many different college campuses throughout the United States, and it's easy to forget the exact specific details of each and every case, especially when we're talking about criminal cases like this one.
It's not easy to forget Emory, because Emory is where my favorite clip of this whole protest, and maybe all clips in the history of mankind, that's where it happened. We're going to show that at some point. We showed that a bunch of times at the time, but yeah, we have a couple of great clips from those protests. It's good reason to stick around. But yeah, you're right. They were all over the place. They were all at the same time, and it does all seem kind of the same. Marco, Richard, any comments before we get into the article?
Well, just to back up what Kirk said there, I mean, you see one bunch of keffiyeh wearing morons protesting on campus somewhere. You've seen them everywhere, haven't you? So it's hard to remember one from another. But absolutely, yeah. I mean, of course, they're all back now, aren't they? You don't want to protest in your own time, do you? So you've had the proper festival season where you've been staying in a different kind of tent. You've been seeing Taylor Swift on tour, getting your mum to do your washing, and now you're back here at university. So instead of going to classes, why not, support the pro-Hamas terrorists?
Well, and why not? You can go back to university and get somebody else to do the thinking for you. So, you need rest for the next few months. And these protests are exactly the result of it.
By the way, Richard, that was a pretty serious generalization against keffiyeh-wearing morons. Are you standing by that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, let's get into the article from The Guardian. This is from yesterday. Atlanta's Emory University targeted by anti-Palestinian group. It's scary. Conservative group posts flyers with photos and names of students and faculty, calling them anti-Israel. Okay, the article begins. Students and faculty at Atlanta's Emory University have been targeted by an outside group posting and handing out flyers labeling 14 of their colleagues, quote, anti-Israel. The flyer, titled Security Alert, included the names, ages, and mugshot-style photos of each of them arranged under the word arrested. Campus Reform National Group of Conservative Students put its logo on the flyer, which refers to arrests made during last April's protests seeking Emory divestment from Israel. Charges for most of that day's 28 arrests remained unresolved and awaiting trial after several faculty leaders have been unsuccessful in efforts to get Emory president Gregory Fenves to ask prosecutors to drop them. Okay, let's pause there. So it's interesting that, they say this, they show the names and they say arrested, and then they do acknowledge that these people have all been arrested, are still awaiting trial. Yeah, they haven't been found guilty, but sometimes you want to know, you don't want the court to find people guilty without a proper, due process, but you do want to know sometimes, like as an individual, you can assess. You are not, it's not unjust of you to assess another individual's, to what extent you want to interact with them, based on what they've done and so on. So, I don't see the problem with this, but again, it is interesting how the Guardian finally found the real victims after they found the heroes in blocking Jews from getting from one side of campus to another, basically disrupting class, disrupting life for weeks for everybody. Apparently, those people are victims. Kirk.
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember a lot of this pearl clutching when these protests were going on about the concern about Jewish students and even other students. I remember on UCLA, there was a non-Jewish student who was pretty upset. He's like, I paid good money to go to this university, yet I have to go through all these BS checkpoints set up by activists on my campus that I paid good money for. Like, where's security? Why should I have to put up with this stuff? But yeah, I remember Chris Hayes over on MSNBC. He said that a lot of the outrage over these protests, he called them decadent and wasn't really crazy about them. There wasn't really that much of a concern over the safety of Jewish students and just students in general. When even when you look into the story about Emory University, from my understanding, a lot of these protesters, it looks like a lot of the protesters, a lot of them were students, clearly, but a lot of them, it looks like were not students. And they were given a lot of warning, like, you guys are trespassing on private property. There's been enough of this. And you guys need to leave by this hour, this date. And when they did not leave, that's when the police showed up and started making arrests. Also, I'd like to add, this part, they use anti-Israel and scare quotes. What are these nuance? From what I can tell, I don't mean to paint with broad brush and play guilt by association, but I remember seeing Hamas or Hezbollah flags and people being proud supporters of Hamas, and I never got the impression that any of these activists were some sort of nuanced middle ground, which is bad. But you could say well, look, I'm all in favor of Israel and Jews having their own state or whatever. I just think there should be some two-state solution or whatever. From what I can tell, most of them were anti-Israel. They think that Israel is, killing all these so-called innocent civilians and committing genocides and whatever. And I never got the impression that any of these students were pro-Israel in any meaningful sense.
Yeah, and I doubt any of them would say, would object to being called anti-Israel. Although I have encountered pro-Palestinian people who, are so committed to dishonesty that the idea of saying anything that is actually true about themselves is so repulsive to them that they'll somehow find a way to say, well, actually, this is best for both sides if the Jews are exterminated. That's not how they put it, but that's essentially what it would mean. Richard.
Yeah, I mean, this anti-Israel slur, I mean, honestly, they're pro-peace, aren't they? They're pro holding hands in a circle of love. It doesn't matter if you're holding hands with a terrorist or a terrorist supporter or, a hostage or a hostage taker. It's all the same, all one humanity. What's the difference? This is the level of naivety that I think it is in there to some extent. And of course, they would also argue they're pro to a two-state solution without understanding what that means, without recognizing the fact that there is no way that Israel can survive and the Jewish people can survive under a two-state solution, certainly without the relinquishing of violence that the Palestinians and Hamas have shown repeatedly. So yeah, you're seeing these students who can't decide whether they're freedom fighters and are extremely brave, or whether they're truffling for victimhood and trying to clamber aboard a please save us bandwagon. It's they're torn between the two, and it exposes their morality and their lack of principle, really.
I find always very amusing when the techniques that the lefty use against everybody else are used towards them. Suddenly, the world is unfair. Suddenly, it's a kind of behavior is unacceptable. And we've seen that a number of times rolled out, especially in our two-tier kind of society in Britain, where if you are pro-Palestinians, if you ask for jihad, if you chant for destruction in Israel, from the river to the sea, all this kind of stuff, that's fine. You just exercise your freedom of speech. But if you look to Jew, or if you say that Hamas is a terrorist organization, expect a barrage of policemen tackling you to the ground and taking you away for your safety. And this goes on all the time. Every time the left gets a taste of their own medicines, they don't seem to like it at all. And this is a beautiful case where, the protest is only against Israel. Somebody protesting for Israel, it's like, what? We can't compute. This is not the way it is done. And then they flip out because, of course, if you change something from the script, they can no longer adapt their thinking because they're not thinking.
Okay, before we continue with the article, a few points. Paul says in the chat, Richard has such a great way with words. I agree. And by the way, he also uses his way with words in writing on the Ayn Rand Center UK Substack, where you can find one article by Richard so far, but more to come. So make sure you subscribe to that. Thank you, Jeff, for the super chat. Kirk shared with us a link here that we're going to share in the chat and in the description from Campus Reform of the the full list with pictures and names of the people, in case any of our viewers are in Emory University and want to know who to watch out for. We will share that list with you so you know who these people are. Also, I see that Larisetto has given some spoilers for my favorite video of all time. So before any more spoilers are given, let's roll that clip and then we'll get back to the article.
my God! You people are fascists! You are Hitler! You are rabid dog! Shame on you! May you never live another day!
I am a professor!
This is an Emory professor, everyone!
I am a professor of economics!
You are rabid dogs! You are fascists!
It was a peaceful protest until they started fighting troopers. I agree with you.
L-I-N. I reacted impulsively. I apologize.
No, you're right. It's right to rebel. I'm gonna share this.
Please remove the handcuffs.
Yeah, beautiful. Justice was served there, and you can see kind of the journey that this woman goes on from the moment she tries to interfere with police work, is about to get arrested, attacks the police officer, then starts screaming, thinking that's going to help, then says, I'm a professor repeatedly, and then specifies I'm a professor of economics because maybe other professors, I don't know, engineering or arrestable in her world, but she really was surprised. And at the end, where she says, "Well, what did she say there? I made a mistake. I acted swiftly. I don't remember what exactly it was, but and then says, please remove the handcuffs." No, that's not how it works. You don't interfere with police work and commit what is possibly a crime and then say, I changed my mind. Like, you changed your mind before, not after. Also, because of how much I enjoy, her reaction to her arrest there, I often forget the guy filming, I guess it's the guy filming or somebody next to the guy filming, saying, you are fascist, you are Hitler, you're rabid dogs. Yeah, because we've done a show, was it last week, about the revisionist historian that Tucker Carlson spoke to. There are many revisionist historians. Some seem to think that what Hitler was known for is law enforcement. No, this was the right thing to do, and well done. And I forgot how much I enjoyed that clip. But actually, I didn't forget that much because this Monday, for Ayn Rand Center UK members at the platinum level or higher, or YouTube members at the inner circle level, we will have a mock trial for the first time in a long time, a mock trial with James Valiant as the prosecutor, with Matthew Humphreys as the defense attorney, with Daniel as the judge, and with our members as the jury. The jury session will be a couple of weeks later, and with me as the defendant, I will be playing a completely fictional character, not based on any characters at all, who is fictionally the head of the philosophy department in Columbia University. So not really based on anything, who protested against genocide and Zionism and all that stuff. That's going to be great. I can assure you, because I'm playing the villain, and I've played the villain in previous mock trials, and as far as I remember, it was great back then, and it'll be great now. Kirk, your comments on that video, although we've talked about it in the past, but yeah, why not?
My understanding of Emory, from just doing a quick Wikipedia lookup, glance at their page, is that it's a private university. So, like, we don't even have, like, the whole gray mixed bag area of a public university where you have to, like, get into this whole debate about how complicated it can get when you turn property into public property and who's allowed to protest and where is the government involved, which Ayn Rand dealt with when she talked about the student protests at Berkeley, the so-called free speech protests in the book The Return to the Primitive. But yeah, it's like I think a lot of people have this understanding, like, when the First Amendment was written and designed to protect the right of people to protest, did the founding fathers intend to give people a blank check to just set up encampments and tents on other people's private property until the owners of said private property gave into whatever demands and whims that they expected? My guess is going to be no.
Richard.
When you said that was your favorite clip, I was expecting to see Beavertown again, to be honest. I think we ought to have a top 10 list of you know, of what the top clips on the show are. I think what you saw there was induction in action, wasn't it? When that's what I put it in philosophical terms. You see her going through the various steps of learning from reality and you know, reaching conclusions as a result. As she goes through all the stages there, which is more than a lecture on philosophy could provide across an hour. Of course, she's an economics professor. Maybe she was referring to people who do Mickey Mouse degrees who should be arrested and you know, taken off campus. To be honest, I don't know how you're going to research for your role, Razi, in the mock trial. I don't know what material you could possibly draw on, but yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah,
yeah, and by the way, I'm sure she would say, what does this induction and philosophy stuff have to do with you know, her experience in the real world or with her subject, economics. So but yeah, you know, that's what I assume as part of my preparation for the role. Marco.
Yeah, you can't even tell what the real world is, can you? But the best bit is in between before she says, "I'm a professor." She keeps repeating, "Oh my God, oh my God." Where suddenly, as Richard pointed out, reality hits her. She realizes that she can't get away with it, just wishing it, just willing it. Suddenly, all her stupid thoughts and stupid ideas are useless to her because they're just stupid ideas, stupid thoughts. So that's nice to see her on the ground eating some grass. Yeah, I mean, all this kind of stuff that was happening, i.e., showing the picture of the people that were arrested in April. You know, the lefty would call it journalism, wouldn't they? They're just reporting the fact. These people were acting like prats, and they've been arrested for it. And now their mugshots are on a piece of paper because the news has been reported. So stop whinging about it and suck it up. Next time, if you don't want to be there, don't behave the way you behaved.
You know, this whole ordeal, it has me thinking, rethinking my career. Maybe I should go become an economics professor, then use my credentials as a get out of jail free card whenever I want to commit crimes.
If you want to not elaborate on what crimes you plan to commit, that's much appreciated.
Yeah, I remember,
no,
I don't know if you guys have watched The Handmaid's Tale. One of the villains in that show is an economics professor, Joseph Lawrence. I wonder if he's just, you know, not guilty for any horrific things that he did because, hey, he's a professor of economics.
I haven't seen it, but look, we still don't know where this is going to end up. You know, in terms of evidence, I think a video was pretty damning evidence, but it could be that she does get off the hook, and if so, it could be that because she's a professor. Thank you, Richard, for the super chat. Richard says, but is it really anti-Semitism or is it really passionate anti-Zionism? I know I didn't read the really with all the e's you put in there, but you know, we have limited time on this show. And thank you, Laura Seto, for the super chat. Laura Seto says, thanks, Razi. That clip is legendary. I agree. And thank you, Roland, for the super chat. Roland says, Razi, I think your beard is a bit too short to play the villain authentically, or will you be playing a female professor? First of all, you know, even a super chat doesn't entitle you to assume my gender. Also, are you saying women can't have beards? It's 2024, man, person. And thank you, Laura Seto, for another super chat. Laura Seto says, don't forget Professor Moriarty. All right. Let's go back to the article. I think this is where we stopped. So the flyers were distributed on Monday as classes began again and have left several faculty members and 11 students and others who supported last year's protests concerned for their own safety and awaiting a response from the school's administration, according to interviews with The Guardian. Campus reform's past efforts have led to faculty on campuses across the nation receiving, quote, threats of harm, including violence or death, according to research by the American Association of University Professors. The Leadership Institute, funded by the Koch family and others.
Ooh, the Koch brothers. Woo!
So they run the group, the flyers, which students and the school The flyers, which the students and the school's open expression team have now removed from campus, appeared only days before the new school year's first protest on divestment from Israel, part of a nationwide walkout for Palestine scheduled for Thursday. One of the students who appears on the flyer spoke to The Guardian on condition of anonymity due to safety concerns. She recounted how she approached the campus squad on Central Plaza on the morning of the 25th of April to observe the semester's protest, then only several hours old. Quote, I was there 2 minutes when a police officer came up behind me, grabbed my hands, and put zip ties on me, she said. On Monday afternoon, friends began sending her messages about the flyer. It's scary, she said. I don't want to be targeted. I'm scared someone will see the flyer, see me, feel afraid, and call the cops on me. Okay, I don't want to pause here, even though there's a lot to say already. But I want to read because this next few paragraphs connect to these last few. Emil Keme, a professor in the Native American and Indigenous Studies program, was also on the flyer. An indigenous Quiche Maya scholar and one of only 2 indigenous tenured faculty members at Emory, Keme told The Guardian that he came to the U.S. as a teenager from Guatemala, escaping, quote, a civil war against my people involving the Guatemalan army who received training from Israelis. Keme went to observe the protest 25th of April and saw, quote, police immediately began to force people to move. I felt like I was in a war zone with all the police and their weapons, the rubber bullets. I held on to one of my students. Police took the student next to me, pushed an older lady nearby, and then pushed me. Okay, enough. There's a lot to say here, but notice how these 2 people who spoke, one on the condition of anonymity so that nobody calls the cops on her, said both her and the professor said that they went to observe the protest and were arrested. Yeah, I'm sure they were just there, checking things out and, were arrested and nothing, since then have not been exonerated. That's a pretty interesting thing. Now, I want to bring up one more thing. Actually, you know what? I'll bring it up after I get your comments. Kirk, your thoughts on what we just heard.
All right, in all seriousness, the article mentions like the threats of violence. That's not cool. That's unacceptable. That's not cool. That it's unacceptable. We still live in a civilized society, and I think all of these students and professors, they do deserve their day in court, and that's why we have police and courts, is to try to remove force from society as much as possible. There's a process for all this stuff. So I don't know how true it is that these students are receiving threats of violence. I hope they're not, but if it's true, I wish people would cut out that nonsense. But on the other hand, especially when they talk about the professor, it's like, didn't these guys go to a protest because they wanted their voices to be heard? They seem to be out there loud and proud in public, supporting a just cause, and now they're embarrassed by it. They're embarrassed to be associated with these protests that were going on when they were, just 6 months ago. They were there. They were excited to go there to fight against whatever injustice they think are happening in the Middle East, and now they're ashamed of it. I think, from what I can tell, it seems like they need to make up their minds on this.
But I don't know if they're ashamed, but you feel much safer when you're a part of a group of like 100 people holding hands, preventing one Jew from crossing by, than when you just walk around on your own and people might know you were one of those people. So I think that might be part of the issue.
Yeah, you want to be in the bigger gang, don't you? I mean, that's how you get your safety on, and you also want the police on your side. I mean, this links together so many different things, doesn't it? It links together the notion of shadowy Jewish cartels who are pulling the strings behind the scenes, of police brutality at every corner, and the looming threat of death that breathes down your neck every time you step out of line, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a bit of a PTSD overload, isn't it, that's going on here? It seems to be drawing in every film they've ever seen in terms of how they're reacting to it. I mean, you said about the Guatemalan mine guy. You said he was a tenured faculty member, did you? Okay, well, I mean, the Guatemalan Civil War ended in 1996 for a start. Maybe he was there before then. I mean, again, this leads to one of those endlessly trotted out lines that allegedly Israelis were involved in training counter insurgency during the period of the Civil War. They certainly supplied some rifles and aircraft during that time, and of course, Guatemala has shown support for Israel in more recent times. In 2018, they supported the fact that the embassy had been moved to Jerusalem, for example, one of the few countries that did come out and support that so as openly. But of course, that doesn't give credence to any of what he's saying here, or any of the sense that of the argument that he's making. But it does underpin the fact that he's badging all Jews together, all Israelis together, and assuming that his life is suddenly in some horrendous danger simply because of his own actions. He's not taking accountability for his own actions. He's expecting to be let off the hook, which is what they all are, really.
I mean, it's funny that if you break every single contract you enter with a private university, then you get police after you. That's a shocker, isn't it? And here's a free tip. If you're really worried about your own safety, stay in class. If you're a teacher, teach. Don't go in the middle of a campus and boss about a couple of Israeli students just because you're in a bigger group, you bunch of cowards. And have you ever heard any of these snowflakes bitch about the fact that their phone contains a chip designed in Israel? Probably not, but oh, by God, somebody was trained by some Israeli guy, and therefore what? But then you wonder why you're calling these people anti-Semitic. I mean, they're jokes, aren't they? They're just, they don't even realize how stupid they are, and that's why we're here, trying to remind them.
Yeah, and so yeah, what was said there was the quote was he was escaping, quote, "a civil war against my people involving the Guatemalan army who received training from Israelis." And remember the headlines I read at the beginning. So one of them was from, was it April or May, titled "Our Struggles Are Connected. Atlanta Protesters Link Cop City to Gaza War." And it continues, campus protesters say issue of police training center and its connections to Israel has been on their minds for months. And yeah, that's a running theme that you'll see with such things. If you can make a connection to the Jewish state in some way, make that connection. And that pushes their goal forward. I mean, this guy, just from the few quotes of him here, I can see that he's a scumbag. First of all, he's a professor in the Native American and Indigenous Studies program. It sounds much more fitting than economics professor. I hear economics professor, I still expect something, whereas I hear whatever that was, and I expect less. Maybe though I don't expect. I still expect more than those who I expect the least from, who we can see in this next clip, also from Emory University during those protests.
I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do for you right now?
Yes, can you call the philosophy department office and tell them I've been requested?
Philosophy department?
Yes, call the philosophy department office.
I will. What's your...
Noel McAfee, I'm chair of the philosophy department.
I got you.
President-elect.
I got you.
head of the philosophy department. Yeah, that I can expect to see in such a protest. Chair of the philosophy department. Sorry, I can't get the correct term wrong, but yeah, that made sense, and that that would have made my day if it was not for the other clip that made my day on that day. All right, should we continue with the article? I mean, I just want to reread this last paragraph. I will reread it. So Keme went to observe the protest on the 25th of April and saw, quote, police immediately began to force people to move. I felt like I was in a war zone. Yes, you know what war zones are known for? Police saying, hey, could you please, step aside a bit and stop blocking the road for everybody. Yeah. Yeah, police immediately began to force people to move. I felt like I was in a war zone with all the police and their weapons, the rubber bullets. I held on to one of my students. We have to do make a clip of this, like a dramatic fictionalized. Anyway, we'll talk about it in the next production meeting. Police took the student next to me, pushed an older lady nearby, and then pushed me. By the way, before I keep reading, we've talked about how sometimes journalists, the amount of sources they require for a story are basically who are the people who will tell me the kind of thing that I want people to hear because I think it'll convince them to be on the same side of as I am. And this very much reads like that. All right, let's continue. After seeing the flyers this week, he said, quote, I feel uncomfortable and disoriented. As with others who spoke to The Guardian, Keme said he wants to see Emory respond to Monday's events. Noel McAfee, chairperson of Emory's philosophy department, who we just saw there, that is the same one, right? Also featured on the flyer, sent an email Tuesday afternoon to Brad Slutsky, Emory's general counsel, asking what the university, quote, will do to notify the organization, Campus Reform, that it has violated our rules, and absent any invitation for any member of the campus community is not welcome here. McAfee said the flyer is defaming students and faculty, mentioned by calling them, quote, anti-Israel, and claiming that all those arrested were involved in, quote, setting up an encampment. Quote, there's no evidence of this, she said. The whole thing is lies. All right. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Kirk.
So this is mostly just me thinking out loud here. I'm not sure what to think about this. Well, I'm wondering what the goal exactly of campus reform is with a tactic like this. I don't mind them highlighting the professors, and from what I can tell from the article I found, a lot of the students documented here are in their mid to late 20s, which suggests that they might be either senior age or grad students. Some of them are 18 or 19, though, and I might be a little bit of a bleeding heart when I say this, but is there any charitability there where we could say, like, well, maybe they're kind of a little more younger and immature. Maybe we should cut them some slack. Maybe after getting arrested, maybe they'll rethink some things and learn a lesson here, as opposed to like the older students and especially the professors. I feel like they should know better. I have a lot less sympathy for them. And especially if they're college professors and they're getting arrested and supporting horrible causes. I think this is something that people on the campus should be well aware of. But I don't know. I'm a little unsure about the younger students documented. What do you guys think about that?
I think there is a scale, obviously, to it. I mean, obviously, people who are professors and stuff, are definitely, more culpable. But each one of these is a legal adult. Each one of them has their own volition. Each one of them turned up for a protest and now claim that they're not in any way anti-Israel, even while spouting some very anti-Israel excuses for why they now feel worried. So Yeah, that doesn't really tie together for me. And the uncomfortable and disoriented. Well, what about the Jewish students on campus who were also like 18, 19 years old, who were properly being faced with a mob. You're disoriented and uncomfortable, in the same way that I am listening to philosophy discussions about reality doesn't exist and how can we know anything.
Yeah, and to add to what you guys were saying earlier, like the double standards, when you ever think about like someone like Ben Shapiro going to who I'm not a big fan of, but like when he goes to college campuses, like people, like a lot of the students will show up and say how unsafe they feel about a conservative speaker coming to their campus, yet Jewish students and pro-Israel students are expected to tolerate this level of quote unquote peaceful protest from people who are promoting ugly ideas and support really horrible causes.
Yeah, well, it goes to show how self-centered, self-obsessed these people are. They totally lack empathy. They're unable to realize that if they were subjected to the stuff that they're subjecting other people to, they wouldn't like it. But in this day and age, you never thought to think about what about the consequence of your actions. It's just you feel that way, therefore you must act because that's the way you feel. Nobody can tell you to act against who you are and all this kind of bullshit. Incidentally, the woman that we saw in the video earlier on is Noelle McAfee. She's a professor of philosophy, an affiliated faculty of women's gender and sexuality studies and psychoanalytic studies. So, what do you expect for somebody whose life actually is to up things? She teaches that to kids who are up to a point intellectually disarmed, and that's why they behave like that. And part of the problem is, yes, they should be old enough to understand what they're doing, but on the other hand, they don't think. They are unable to understand which side is on. So even if they think they're on the right, they're actually on the left, in the sense that they are swallowing the whole story and acting accordingly without thinking of what they're doing, because the majority of people do that. Their teachers do that. So that's got to be the right thing. Why spending time analyzing and thinking about the facts? Waste of time, isn't it? You could be on TikTok dancing like an idiot.
Thank you, Jesse, for gifting an Ayn Rand Center UK YouTube membership. Deborah asks, does the Guardian article identify all the, quote, student groups that are funded by Iran or Qatar, or just the good groups funded by the Kochs? I think you know the answer to that, but it's a good question to pose to them on Twitter. I think it'll get you blocked, but that is also an answer. I think I wanted to say something else, but I don't remember what it was. So let's go back to the article. Spokesperson Laura Diamond did not reply to a query from The Guardian about whether the school's administration will be making a statement or taking any action in response to the flyers, but wrote in an email, quote, Emory condemns any attempt to publicly harass and intimidate members of our community. Good to know. Meanwhile, Ibrahim, a Muslim Emory student who was not on the flyer but did not want his last name used, said, quote, my biggest fear is that people from outside the university will come onto campus and harm us, referring to Palestinian, Muslim, and Arab students. Quote, this flyer was an indication of the very real possibility that could happen. If you go around handing out flyers with people's names and pictures, drawing negative attention to them, he said, it's very clear you want to cause harm to them physically, emotionally, or psychologically. Speaking of the protest plan for Thursday, he said, quote, there are a lot of heightened tensions. There's a tense climate. Still, we're not going to stop protesting, but we have to be very vigilant. Yeah, I wish, ARCUK had the budget for me to have, another camera, like on the Daily Show when Jon Stewart turns to a camera and then speaks directly. But I only have this one. So let me say directly to Ibrahim, fuck you, Ibrahim. Seriously, fuck you. I mean, you are on the side that is pro-violence. You're on the side that is intimidating and harassing people, and people are scared to go to university because you people are there. You people, the pro-Hamas side. This had nothing to do with the fact that you're Arab. There are Arabs who are pro-Israel, and they might actually be afraid. Unlike you, who claim to be afraid, they have a reason to be afraid because you're on the side that is supporting the side that started a war, and you are acting with the same violence, or not the same level of violence, but fundamentally the same approach of violence that they are. This poster shows that there are people who are arrested in the violent protest. So it says, look, these people, the police thought there's reason to remove them from the situation during those violent protests. You might want to know that. You might want to know that if you're walking through the campus, because you might be at risk if you are, in any way visibly Jewish, as a police officer in London referred to somebody, let alone, openly supporting Israel. So yeah, no, Ibrahim, you're not the victim. You are the reason there are victims. Kirk.
Yeah, he mentioned that he's afraid that outsiders will start coming to the campus. Okay, that's a legitimate concern, considering that according to a statement put out by the where was it? I think it was their Emory University Vice President for Public Safety said a reason why police took action in this instance was because they concluded that because people were showing up to the campus and ignoring the Emory Police Department, and they were refusing to show that they had any connection to Emory or the community, that's when police started to take action. Again, we didn't really see a lot of this concern back when the protests were going on, whether or not outsiders were coming to Emory to stir up some trouble.
If emotion and feeling is what drives you, then feeling scared suddenly means you change your mind utterly. And that's what you're seeing going on here. I mean, the word projecting surely is exactly what we're seeing here. I don't like to psychologize people, but it's quite clearly you're projecting onto other people. You're accusing them of doing what you do. And there's no doubt about that. I mean, these people are sort of, one minute they're wearing a hero cape, and the next minute they're turning it into a victim blanket. And that's the process.
And see how good a Guardian is to make up victimhood. A Palestinian Muslim and Arab, isn't that the same thing? It's a bit like, say, a male gay homosexual. So, well, in how many ways can you say the same things? But three words look like it's a big thing, doesn't it?
Sorry, I was just reading what Kirk sent in the chat here. But yeah. Look, we've mentioned the campus intifada a few times in the past few months. We've mentioned that, it is coming back, and that it's probably going to be in the news now that everybody's back, had a nice summer, hopefully had a nice vacation, and now they're back to fighting the good fight. And yeah, as you see these people say, as you saw Ibrahim say, he may be afraid to give his last name to the Guardian because he's afraid of outside forces, knowing that outside forces are what made the campus intifada to begin with. This is what, certainly in Columbia University, this is what was a big part of the start of it, and helped it grow. But yeah, look, these people are going to continue to do their thing. They're going to continue to play the victim, and they're going to continue to hear about it from us. Although I'm not sure if they all watch us, but we're gonna watch them, and we're gonna keep talking about them. Whenever they do something worthy of talking about, and worse, whenever the media covers it in a way that twists it completely and shows these villains as victims. Parting thoughts, Kirk?
No, I don't think I have anything more to really say on this topic at the moment. No.
Well, they will give you additional material for future shows. I don't doubt that, Richard.
I think this is one of the universities where they did bring in the police in order to clear things fairly early, and that was the right thing to do in order to enable the facilitating of what a university should be doing to go ahead for all of those students that wanted to learn. So, I mean, that should be remembered in the course of this. And of course, the other thing that we don't see enough of when it comes to this sort of thing is the withholding of degrees at the end of it. Which can be used as a definite punishment for those who breach the rules and infringe the rights of other students to get their own degrees. So I think that's a technique which really ought to be enforced more, and it shouldn't be pussyfooting around in relation to these protesters as often as has been the case. It'd be interesting to see this year, as we go into this new academic term, whether it's got the same fervor that it had before, whether it starts to filter out, to lessen over time, and of course what the impact is post the November election, because of course that's probably in the minds of many politicized students in the last few months up to November.
Yeah, probably lots of the action that they're going to take for the next few months are going to be directed towards that election. I'm sure that whether they are more or less active depends on how much they would harm their side or not. Yeah, the problem with these people that they're in an institute of learning, and unfortunately they seem to do everything but learning. They are taught that feelings are perfect substitute for thought, and that's what they're doing. They're feeling, they're acting according to their feeling. They don't think, and that's the biggest disgrace, really.
Chris in the chat asked about South Africa. We discussed South Africa in the Daily Objective right before today's episode of the reality show, which, by the way, we switched topics like 10 minutes before the Daily Objective. I thanked you privately. I'll thank you publicly, Kirk, Marco, Richard, for this is a very we sometimes come up with a topic late, but I think this is somewhat of a new record. But we thought there's more to say about this. For people watching who are members of the YouTube channel, who are considering becoming members, consider becoming a member at the inner circle level on YouTube. And I think now is a great time to do so if you've thought about it. Is a great time to try it out. What you'll get just in the next week, and this is a month-long, recurring membership, but it's monthly, is on Monday you will get to join us on the production meeting that we have that starts 30 minutes before the Daily Objective. We talk about the upcoming shows. We talk about what we're going to do in the near future. We give a behind-the-scenes view of what we do here. And on Monday, you will also have access to the mock trial where I will play a professor who was unjustly arrested or justly. The jury will decide. So you get access to that. You'll get access to the live streams of James Valiant's course on the Constitution. Yesterday's session was postponed to Tuesday, so you will get 2 of those sessions in the first week of your inner circle membership. So if you've thought of trying it out, now is the time. You can always downgrade. You shouldn't, but you can if you want to. So consider doing that. And members at all levels can watch the first session of the study group on Leonard Peikoff's Introduction to Logic, run by James Valiant, this Sunday. So make sure you tune in for that. Kirk, where can people find you?
I would recommend today, everyone check out my YouTube channel, Kirk Wilcox on YouTube, and I have 2 videos on this topic where I reacted to the campus protest. One is called "Reacting to the Pro-Theocracy Protests." The other one is "All In with Double Standards." That's where I react to Chris Hayes's coverage of the protests. So if you want more on this topic, go check out my YouTube channel, specifically those 2 videos.
Richard, Marco?
You can check our work out on the Briefly Objective, and I believe there's a Briefly Objective video coming out. I think it's in about 4 minutes' time, isn't it? Today, which there hasn't been one for a little while. So please do check that out. Make sure you link to that. That's down in the description below. You can link to that one.
And also, we are on Substack. And if you are a member of Ayn Rand Center UK Platinum Plus, you can take part to the Saturday forum sessions. It's a philosophy forum. So if you have any questions, you want something you want to find out about, there are no sessions which are recorded, so you don't have to feel under pressure to be prepared or whatever. Come with your questions or whatever. And often James is there, we are there. So, it's a good chance of testing your philosophy against a group of students of objectivism.
Yeah. If you become a member, and depending on which level, there's a lot of stuff and more stuff, obviously, the higher you go. Yeah, the video, which is in less than 3 minutes on the Briefly Objective Conspiracy Theories, the Surrender of Thought, that premieres in 2.5 minutes. Quickly, there was a comment here I wanted to read out. PB Law says, I'm an Emory alumna. Emory is not going along with the nonsense for the most part. Yeah, I think that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem for the students. They're not happy with Emory, unlike other universities where they went along, and then in some cases, the people at the top lost their job because they didn't go along enough. In Emory, they didn't put up with it, which is in part what brought us some of that beautiful imagery that we saw earlier in the episode. All right, enough filibustering. Thanks, guys, for joining. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you on the Briefly Objective in a couple of minutes, on the Daily Objective tomorrow.
Bye.